Welcome back everyone. Today we are going to look at the fifth game in the World Chess Championship 2024 between Gukesh and Ding Liren. Both of them having 2 points each after fourth round. Today Gukesh has white pieces and he pushes the pawn to e4. e6 by Ding. The French defends again on the board. d4 by Gukesh, d5 by Ding. Gukesh takes the pawn, Ding recaptures the exchange variation of French defense. Gukesh brings out the knight to f3, knight f6 by Ding. Here Gukesh plays bishop d3 and c5 by Ding. In response, Gukesh plays c3 and solidify the pawn structure. Now c4 by Ding, which attacks the bishop. Bishop goes back to c2 and bishop d6 by Ding. Here Gukesh plays queen e2 to check, which invites queen e7 and queen trade. Queen e7 plays by Ding and queen trade occurs. Here Ding takes back the queen by king, so that he can manually castle the king by rook e8 and king f8. Now Gukesh castles and rook e8 by Ding. Rook e1 check and king goes back to f8. Now rook takes rook, king takes rook. Here Gukesh plays bishop g5. His idea is to take this knight and ruin the black's pawn structure. Ding plays knight bd7 to support this knight. Now Gukesh plays knight bd2 and h6 by Ding. Bishop retreats to h4. Now we get knight h5 and rook e1 check, king goes to f8. At this point all the white pieces are active, but the black's rook and life square bishops are passive. However, it can be activated soon. Here Gukesh plays an aggressive move g4, which attacks the knight. Therefore knight goes to f4 and bishop g3 by Gukesh. Here Ding plays knight b6, which is a great move because it activates the bishop and that bishop is attacking g4 pawn. Now Ding plays a great move knight b6, which activates the bishop and that bishop is attacking the g4 pawn. Therefore Gukesh plays g5. At this point if you play knight h3 check, it would be a serious mistake because king goes to f2, and if bishop takes this bishop, don't take the bishop at this point, take this pawn. Then the if bishop retreats, even push the pawn to make the queen. Therefore Ding takes the g5 pawn and knight recaptures. Now we get bishop d7 and knight goes back to f3. After that rook e8 by Ding and knight t5 by Gukesh. Here bishop takes the knight and Gukesh recaptures with the pawn. It is a serious mistake by Gukesh. Instead he could have played by capturing with the rook and rook exchange can be occurred. Coming back to the game, here Ding plays a great move knight to d3, which forks the pawns as well as the rook. Therefore the knight should be captured, otherwise you will lose a pawn. Therefore Gukesh captures the knight with the bishop and pawn takes the bishop. At this point Ding is having advantage because of this passed pawn. Here Gukesh plays f3 and knight c4 by Ding. Knight takes knight, pawn takes knight. Now black has passed the pawn, protected passed pawn. Here Gukesh plays a great move rook e4 and bishop c6 by Ding, which is a slight mistake. Instead he could have played bishop to e6. Let's say white play rook to d4, black can play rook c8 and white plays king f2, rook c5 by black, and the next move we can attack these two pawns by, let's say, h4 by white. This black rook can attack this a pawn. If a pawn moves, he can attack this other pawn and he can gain a pawn and eventually win the game. But Ding couldn't find that line. Coming back to game, Ding played bishop c6 and rook d4 by Gukesh. Instead, if you take this c4 pawn, you will lose the game because of this passed pawn. Because you cannot stop that passed pawn. Next, he can move to rook d8 and support this pawn and make a queen, or you can win material also. Therefore, Gukesh plays rook d4. Now bishop takes f3 and king f2, and bishop retreats back to c6. Instead, he could have played bishop h5 to keep the advantage. Coming back to game, here rook takes c4 and rook d8 by Ding. Rook d4, rook takes rook, pawn takes rook, bishop d5 by Ding, which attacks the a pawn. Therefore, Gukesh plays b3. Next, king a7 by Ding, king e3, king e6, g6, king takes pawn and g6, and king c3 and a6. Next, Gukesh plays king d3, king f5, king e3, king e6. Now they are going to repeat the moves and the game ended in a draw. Even though white has an extra pawn because of this opposite colored bishop, the game will end in a draw, so that they repeated the moves. I hope you liked the recap and please stay tuned for the next game. Thank you.